Attention passionate Detroit, Lions fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Detroit Lions' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Detroit Lions fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Detroit Lions fans. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, if you've been paying close attention to the Detroit Lions this season, you already know that there's a lot of excitement surrounding their backfield. And I mean a lot of it. The Lions have been building something special over the past few years, especially on offense, and their running game has become a real highlight. You see, last season, Detroit's ground attack was one of the most dynamic in the entire league, largely thanks to the tandem of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. These two guys, coming from very different backgrounds and playing very different roles, formed a nightmare for defenses. And it's not just hype. What they did on the field last year was truly impressive. But if you really dig into the details, what's happening now is even more intriguing. Because as much as we celebrated that duo, there's an emerging reality in Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs has taken over as the lead back, the number one option in that backfield. And David Montgomery, despite having one of the best seasons of his career just 2 years ago, now finds himself in a more secondary role. This is a natural progression, and it speaks to a lot of what's happening behind the scenes, both in terms of team strategy and salary cap management. See, last season, Gibbs exploded onto the scene with a level of production that instantly made him one of the league's most exciting young running backs. He carried the ball 250 times, rushing for an incredible 412 yards, and leading the NFL with 16 rushing touchdowns. That's no small feat for a guy who was still relatively new to the league. His speed, agility, and vision turned him into a constant threat every time he touched the ball. And really, he's the kind of player defenses just can't keep up with. Montgomery, on the other hand, was a different kind of weapon. His style is more physical, more thunder than lightning. He's the guy who moves the chains, who wears down defenses with his tough runs and relentless attitude. Last year, Montgomery put up solid numbers, 775 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns on 185 carries. Not bad at all, especially considering his role in a team that's evolving. But the interesting part is that this season, his role has shifted quite a bit. And here's where it gets fascinating for Lions fans trying to understand the future of the backfield. The question is, how long can they keep both these incredible players? You see, Gibbs is eligible for a contract extension after next season, and his early production makes it clear that he's going to demand a significant deal if Detroit wants to keep him around long-term. Based on what we've seen so far, it's safe to say that the Lions have a star in the making, and they'll likely want to lock him up sooner rather than later. But what about Montgomery? Well, he's not exactly earning Saquon Barkley money, and his contract situation is a bit more complicated. He's set to make about $6 million in 2025, which isn't outrageous in the NFL running back market, but his cap hits in 2026 and 2027, $8. $4 million and $2 million respectively, are starting to become a challenge from a salary cap perspective. And here's the catch. Montgomery just turned 27, an age where NFL running backs tend to hit that tricky point where their production might decline, and injuries become a bigger concern. His style of pounding the ball between the tackles is physically demanding, and with that kind of workload, wear and tear is inevitable. Last year, we saw a slight dip in his efficiency, which could be a sign of what's to come. The Lions have to weigh whether they want to keep him long-term, especially with the rising star in Gibbs now firmly cemented as their primary back. Some analysts and fans have even speculated that Detroit might consider trading Montgomery, especially if they're looking to maximize their cap space or rebuild for future seasons. Think about it. Teams around the league are always on the lookout for a proven running back with Montgomery's kind of experience and production. A trade could bring in draft picks or young players that could be vital to Detroit's future. And let's be honest, Montgomery still holds value. He's a reliable, tough runner, and teams that need a veteran presence at running back would definitely be interested. So, could we see a trade around the trade deadline in 2025 if Detroit doesn't meet expectations in the first half of the season, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But let's take a step back and look at Montgomery's journey. He played 3 seasons at Iowa State from 2016 to 2018, where he really made a name for himself. 2 consecutive 1-0-yard rushing seasons in college showcased his ability to carry a heavy workload, and that's what caught the NFL's attention. Drafted by the Chicago Bears in the 3rd round of the 2019 NFL Draft, Montgomery quickly became a key piece of their offense. He was considered a versatile back with good vision and power, fitting well into Chicago's system before eventually making his way to Detroit in 2023. And since arriving in Detroit, Montgomery has been a solid contributor, often providing that physical presence that complements Gibbs' speed. But the league is evolving, and the Lions are no exception. They're building a team that's not just about 1 or 2 players, but about a well-rounded, dynamic offense that can adapt to any situation. The Lions' season last year was a testament to that. They finished with an impressive record, making the playoffs and putting together one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Jared Goff, their quarterback, had a career year, throwing for over 600 yards and 32 touchdowns, while their receiving core, featuring Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs himself, made defenses dizzy. But it all starts with that powerful running game, which keeps defenses honest and opens up the field for Goff and the passing attack. And it's not just about the offense. The Detroit Lions have been building a pretty solid defense too, one that's aggressive and disciplined, led by players like Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. The team's overall strategy seems to be geared toward winning now, but also maintaining flexibility for the future. That's why the situation with Montgomery and Gibbs is so intriguing. Do the Lions keep both, knowing that their style of play is what makes them so dangerous? Or do they make a tough decision to trade one to maximize their assets? The NFL is a business, and managing the salary cap is crucial. With Montgomery's current contract and Gibbs's rising star power, Detroit's front office has a lot to consider. The team's coaching staff, led by Dan Campbell, is all about toughness and resilience, but even they have to play the long game. They're trying to strike that perfect balance between winning now and building for the future. And if their 2024 season is any indicator, they're on the right track. But the stakes are higher than ever, especially with the NFC North getting more competitive each year. The Vikings have improved, the Packers are always lurking with some new weapons, and the Bears are in rebuild mode, but can't be underestimated. So, Detroit's success hinges not just on their offense, but also on how wisely they navigate these personnel decisions. If they're smart, they'll maximize Gibbs's potential and find a way to keep Montgomery happy and productive, either as a key veteran on the roster or as a valuable trade asset. And speaking of the bigger picture, there are also some interesting historical parallels. The Lions have struggled for decades, often finishing near the bottom of the division. But in recent years, they've started to change that narrative. With solid drafts, good coaching, and a clear vision, Detroit is now considered a legitimate playoff contender. And that makes every decision about roster management even more critical. In fact, their recent draft picks have been promising. They've added young talent on both sides of the ball, and their strategic focus on developing a balanced team has paid off. The offensive line has improved, giving Jared Goff more time to work, and the defense has become more aggressive. But of course, everything starts with how they handle their running back situation. Because in the NFL, a great running game can be the difference maker, especially in close playoff battles. So, what's next for Detroit? Well, it all depends on how the season unfolds. If Gibbs continues to shine and the team stays healthy, we might see the Lions leaning heavily on their young star. But if injuries strike or if they underperform in the first half of 2025, the front office could make moves, either to free up cap space or to shake things up for a playoff push. And naturally, Montgomery's name will be front and center in those conversations. Now, for all the Lions fans out there, it's an exciting time. Your team is on the rise, and the future looks bright. The way they've built this roster, with a mix of young talent and veteran savvy, is a blueprint for sustained success. And watching how they manage this running back situation will be a fascinating subplot in their quest for another playoff run, and ideally, a Super Bowl appearance. Because let's not forget, Detroit has been longing for that elusive Lombardi trophy for decades, and it seems like they're finally getting closer. The passion around this team is palpable, And every game, every decision, every play is part of that bigger story. And now, Detroit Lions fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Detroit Lions. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Detroit Lions news. The journey is just getting started, and with each passing week, the story gets more exciting. Keep the passion alive, and let's see where this season takes our Lions. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay loyal, stay loud, and go Lions.